We'd like to get started here, so if everybody could settle. And just a general reminder, please mute your cell phones, just like the movie theater, but with higher stakes. So if we could quiet down, mute all of our electronics, get those last photos in before we begin, that would be great. You guys are quick. Okay, perfect. Hello and welcome everybody to today's candidate forum. The candidates and our sponsors, thank you all for attending today to witness the candidates for the 8th Congressional Democratic Primary Candidate Forum. So thank you all for coming and joining us today. My name is Janet Sonoyka. I am the team lead for this forum and a member of the League of Women Voters of the Palatine, Barrington, and Schaumburg areas, which also includes Inverness, Hoffman Estates, and Rolling Meadows. First, I would like to acknowledge our co-sponsors for this forum. A lot of good groups got together today to bring this to you. First, I would like to recognize the Illinois Muslim Action Network, ILMAN, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering the Muslim community through civic engagement and political participation. To learn more or join, you can visit ilmannetwork.org. Additionally, we'd like to thank Harper College. Harper College is one of the nation's premier community colleges, serving approximately 26,500 students annually in Chicago's northwest suburbs and preparing students for careers and transfer to four-year university institutions. You can visit their website as well at harpercollege.edu. And then a little bit about the League of Women Voters. We are a nonpartisan political organization that neither supports, opposes, nor recommends candidates for office. The League was founded in 1920 here in Chicago to help educate and inform the new female voters who had just won the right to vote. The League's purpose to promote civic responsibility through the informed and active participation of all citizens. Providing this forum enables members of the community to become better informed about the issues facing them and the candidates running for office. We are proud to offer this service to you. All sponsors of this forum are firmly committed to nonpartisanship and to providing an equal, respectful platform for every candidate, regardless of party affiliation. Before we go any further, as a way to remind ourselves of why we are here and that regardless of our individual political views, we are all Americans. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, a few housekeeping items, and then I'll hand things over to our moderator. The restrooms are out of the entrance door and out in the main lobby area. In case of emergency, the exit doors are in the back, and then we also have another one in the front here. Please be careful, there are lots of steps, so in case of emergency, please be courteous and watch out. There are lights on the steps to help. And then, as mentioned before, if you have not, please mute your devices. And then additionally, today's forum will be recorded for the League of Women Voters and our co-sponsors' use in educating the public. So this will not be live streamed, but it will be available for watching later on. If any of your friends and family could not make it, please feel free to share them the link so they can also be informed. The video will be available early next week on the League of Women Voters palatinearea.org website. The candidates have all agreed to the recording. The League of Women Voters claims copyright ownership of all recordings or transcripts produced from this event and reserves the rights to publicize this forum. Wonderful. No campaign signs, buttons, or partisan materials are allowed in this room. No voice, image, or other duplication of the form may be used by a candidate's representative or campaign in any campaign advertising. And all audience members are hereby advised that their image may appear in the forum, video, or photographs of the forum. We want to thank you all for taking the time to attend. In order to help us stay within our time limits and out of respect for the candidates and your fellow attendees, we ask that you hold your applause until the end of the forum. No questions will be taken from the floor, and no interruptions, heckling, or other disruptions will be tolerated. And now I am pleased to introduce our moderator, Dr. Anisha Jogi. One moment here, I've got lots of papers. Dr. Anisha Jogi is an elected school board leader and organizational development consultant. During her tenure as board president, the Arlington Heights School District 25 Board earned its first State Affected Governance Award. As the founder and principal of AJ Leadership Advisors, she partners with organizations to cultivate high-performing leaders, teams, and boards. Anisha is also a longtime member of the League of Women Voters and is a passionate advocate for civic education and for expanding political engagement among underrepresented communities. Outside of her professional and civic work, she enjoys playing pickleball and globetrotting with her husband, Sajid Patel, and their children. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Janet. Welcome, everybody. Today is Saturday morning, and you're all here. Kudos. Give yourselves a pat on the back for being so highly engaged civically. It is my pleasure to moderate this candidate forum. I am not a resident of this district, and I am not eligible to vote in this election. So I have been asked to serve as an impartial facilitator on behalf of this forum's co-sponsors. I also want to share that as a former candidate who has experienced many contentious school board elections, I completely empathize with these good people here, as I have sat in the candidate's chair through many forums. And my goal is to ensure a fair space for each candidate to share their perspectives. I will now take my position and take a few minutes to explain the format and the rules of the forum. Each candidate today will have 2 minutes for their opening. Next, each candidate will have 1 minute to answer questions. I will be happy to repeat questions. Candidates will be given a 30-second warning, so please quickly complete your thoughts before you see the stop card. Time limits will be enforced out of respect for all candidates. If needed, a rebuttal may be requested. Each candidate may use a maximum of 2 rebuttals. Rebuttals will be timed and limited to 30 seconds each. It's really short. Simply raise your rebuttal card if you wish to speak. I truly want to thank our timekeepers today because they have a really challenging task, because when we have people who are very passionate about their campaigns and their platforms, it's hard to keep a time limit. But I assure you, these good folks have agreed to following the rules, and your job will be super easy today as timekeepers. And a special thanks to the Harper College students here today and all the League of Women volunteers and Ilman volunteers as well. Finally, each candidate will have 1 minute closing statement. Questions have been submitted by audience members at the time of registration, the candidates, and by local civic organizations. Questions have been reviewed for clarity, appropriateness, and to avoid duplication. The organizers have done their best to ensure that questions are free of inherent bias. And finally, candidates have been asked not to interrupt one another. Today, we will hear from 8 candidates. Thank you all for being here. And all of you are hoping to serve the Illinois 8th Congressional District. We have with us today Neil Cote, Sanjoy Denang, Junaid Ahmed, Melissa Bean, Kevin Morrison, Yasmin Bankole, Dan Tully, and Ryan Vedekad. I truly want to thank you for your participation today and in the civic engagement journey. It is not easy being a candidate, and yet you are all here. We will begin with your 2-minute opening statements. By number draw, Neil Cote will go first. Thank you. And now, Neil Cote, you have 2 minutes.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this forum. My identity goes as I'm a son of Aparna, I'm a father of Aryan, and I'm a husband of Anu. My name is Neil Koth, and I carry my passport now to show my identity. This is what has become, and this is what we have come to in this country that 30 years ago when I landed was not the country. And I was born in India to a lower middle class family, one of 3 brothers. And for me, and in my home, education was number 1, and respect to elders was number 2. With that morals, I set to see my American dream and achieve my American dream, and landed here 30 years ago in a town called Fayetteville, Arkansas. From there, I moved on to St. Louis, Missouri, and from Missouri, Chicago, Illinois. This has been my home. This is where I have lived. My son, who's 11 years old, is growing old. My mother, who is 77, and they're all here. And they're all growing old. For me, this is personal. For me, it is for them that I want to make sure the American dream is alive. And so for all your families, I want to make sure that the American dream for your son, for your grandchildren is alive when they have lost hope. I want to make sure that I go to Washington, D.C. and fight for you. I'm not looking for my next career growth. I'm not looking for my next job. What I'm looking is to give back to the country that has given me everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sanjoy Denang.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on a Saturday. It's very good to see democracy alive in so many of you here today, the spirit of it and engagement. My name is Sanjoy Denang, and yes, I am running for Congress from our Illinois 8th District. Like so many of you, I'm deeply concerned about the chaos, the uncertainty, the threats to our democracy, the affordability, childcare, elder care, education, health care. What kind of country are we leaving our children? I was raised in Des Plaines. I came here as an immigrant at the age of 6, and my parents instilled in me the values of hard work and service and pride in the promise of America as I went on to Northwestern as well. I have a small education business, and I've juggled raising 3 boys. My youngest is in the military, the Air Force, and I took care of my elderly parents and disabled. My mother had a rare form of muscular dystrophy. So I understand exactly what our families are going through. I served on President Biden's foreign policy working groups, helping to boost small business exports, and I continue to serve on boards strengthening small businesses, creating jobs, and protecting economic and national security. I'm ready to be active and able to do the job on day one. I'm endorsed by a number of organizations, including Vote Common Good. But today, that common good is under threat from division and chaos. That's why I'm in this race. I am tired of politics as usual, and I know all of you are too. I'm leading with a 2-pronged strategy. Defend democracy, but let's also provide a path forward to make sure everybody has access to freedom, opportunity, dignity, and security. I look forward to our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Junaid Ahmed.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Great to see you all. My name is Junaid Ahmed. My story to this campaign starts like so many American stories. Like so many of you in the room here, my dad came here looking for a better life for I and my siblings. He worked hard, saw parents working super hard growing up. My dad often doing 2 jobs at a time to support his 6 kids. We wanted to honor that sacrifice that our parents did for us. I started out my college education at a community college. I transferred to DePaul University, where I worked full-time, went to school full-time. Eventually earned an MBA 7 years later, going back to University of Chicago Booth School of Business. Today, I'm a proud father of 4, and I own a tech firm. Giving back to the community is something my parents have instilled in us, and I've been involved in many relief work just about all my adult life. I'm living my parents' dream, my dad's dream, and that dream is under attack. And I am fighting to push back and be that progressive fighter in Congress, push back and take us forward. Donald Trump is making our streets a war zone. We need someone who is going to be out there on the streets, not just sitting behind the desk. Somebody who has a history of showing up to the streets. Somebody who has a history of showing that I am not just here because I'm running for office. I am going to be your voice in Congress. I am not going to be taking any money from corporate PACs, no money from any dark APAC money, but be the voice of the people. My name is Junaid Ahmed. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Bean?
Can I ask for just a point with the signs, just so I'm clear? So the first one says when it's 1 minute, and then there were two in between? Oh, I'm sorry.
And then in between, what were the other?
30 seconds and then 15 seconds.
So there's 2 yellows before the stop. That's what I'm sorry. Thank you. I just want to make sure I'm staying within the time, Francie.
You're welcome. Melissa Bean.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Bean. Thank you to the League, to sponsors, and to all of you attendees being here this morning. For those of you who don't know me, I grew up in Des Plaines, went to Maine East High School, and am a Oakton Community College graduate and a Roosevelt University graduate, most of which my college was done in the evenings because I was working full-time. I had 2 daughters along the way and struggled with work-life balance like so many families do today. And also, having started a small business, and my husband had a small business, struggled with the cost of healthcare, particularly for entrepreneurs. This, of course, was before we passed Obamacare. But when you have children, you start paying attention to things like air quality, water quality, school quality, and we had a member of Congress who was not right on any of those issues, and it led me to run against Phil Crane and defeat the longest-serving Republican member of the House, starting a blue wave across the western suburbs. I was victorious and was part of one of the most productive Congresses that we've seen in decades, and we passed Obamacare. We passed transformative Wall Street reforms. We passed Lilly Ledbetter for equal pay, and I'm very proud of my record. It's worth noting that we didn't get a single Republican vote on those transformative bills, except Lilly Ledbetter. I think we got 2, which is why a Democratic majority is so important, and it's why I'm back, because the American dream is under assault, as is our American values. And we need to hold this executive branch accountable and not act like this current majority that is letting him run the country by executive fiat. It's dangerous and it's unconstitutional. I've delivered before, and I'm ready to deliver again and hold them account and work hard on behalf of the 8th District of Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Morrison.
Well, first and foremost, thank you to the organizers of this event. Thank you to Harper, and thank you to so many of the 8th Congressional District voters for joining us this morning. My interest in public service was sparked by my incredible mother, Bruna, who's a small business owner, and inspired me to want to give back to our communities. I'm Kevin Morrison. I've had the honor of serving the communities I grew up in. I grew up in Elk Grove Village, and over the last 7 years, I've been able to serve as a county commissioner, giving back to these communities. In 2018, I made history. I ran for the Cook County Board of Commissioners against the chairman of the Illinois Republican Party and won, flipping the district blue and becoming the youngest and first openly LGBT county commissioner. As a county commissioner, I created a nationally recognized one-stop shop to help our small business owners start and grow their businesses. I created the county's first ever Department of Mental and Behavioral Health. I strengthened reproductive rights, and I've stood up to ICE at every turn. I'm running for Congress because what they're doing is definitely not working. We live in an economy where my generation feels like the American dream is out of reach. Our current members of Congress are not standing up and fighting for people like you and me, and Donald Trump is trying to rip the Constitution to shreds. We need a new generational leadership, not a rerun of the failed tactics of the past. In Congress, I'll tackle the affordability crisis. I'll always fight for Main Street, not Wall Street and billionaires, and I'll always stand up to Donald Trump and his fascist authoritarian regime. I want to be that fighter that finally delivers affordable health care, housing, and higher education for our families so that we all have the ability to actually earn the American dream. In this race, I've earned over 180 endorsements, including most recently the Illinois Federation of Teachers, progressive leaders like Jan Schakowsky, and more mayors in the 8th Congressional District than any candidate on this stage. Again, I'm Kevin Morrison. My website's kevinmorrisonforcongress.com, and I really hope to earn your support in this race. Thank you.
Thank you. Yasmin Bankole.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Yasmin Bankole, and I am running for Congress because it is time for a new generation of leadership to lead with experience and to actually get things done. I am Illinois born and raised, born in Chicago, raised in Hoffman Estates and Hanover Park, attended schools in U46 school district, went to Lake Park High School in Roselle, spent over a decade working at the Schomburg Library, and my mother is an educator and spent almost over a decade working at Harper College. So this is a really, really special place for me. I also serve as a trustee in the village of Hanover Park. I've been elected since 2021 and was elected at the age of 27 and became the youngest trustee on our board's history. I've been able to tackle and accomplish really great things like creating a water bill discount program and public safety initiatives, and really have tried to give a voice to those that feel disenfranchised. I also spent almost 8 years working for Congress, both in the U.S. House of Representatives and in the Senate. Worked for our current Congressman, Raja Krishnamurthy, and spent many years working for U.S. Senator Dick Durbin, whose endorsement I am so proud to have. You know, many of the infrastructure projects that are in this district have my fingerprints on them. In fact, Harper College received over $1 million for their emergency services project, and I was so proud to help deliver that. You know, we are living in a new America, and for that we need a next generation of leaders who are willing to stand up and to lead with courage and with the truth. We deserve to have a fully funded education system. We deserve to have universal health care and child care. We deserve to have a president that actually cares about us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dan Tully.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dan Tully. I'm running for Congress to stop this administration's illegal power grab and to restore integrity to our government. I am an attorney with over 8 years of experience practicing law. I'm a veteran who served in Iraq, and I'm a major in the U.S. Army Reserve JAG Corps. And I am also a former federal civil servant who resigned in protest from this administration when they came in and cut my primary funder, USAID, in the foreign assistance and diplomatic space. I refused to help this administration advance its authoritarian agenda, and now I'm running for Congress with a Trump accountability plan based on my legal experience that has 10 different points, and I'm hoping to talk in detail on each one today. 10 different points to how to hold this administration accountable, but even more importantly than imposing consequences, changing the conditions of our government such that this never happens again. The broad strokes are to reassert congressional power, to serve as a check on the executive power. This president wants to pursue the unitary executive theory, which is a consolidation of federal power into one single person, the president. I have a plan to dilute that and to retake power for Congress, but also a plan to place limitations on executive power, including having an attorney general to act as a check on executive power from within the executive branch. And of course, to reform the Supreme Court to make it more responsive to the needs of the American people. And of course, overlaying all of this is this idea that the cost of living in America is far too expensive. The aggregate cost of each piece of the pie that each piece of that Americans have to pay for has exceeded the cost that people should be willing to and able to pay. So all that to say, all those solutions I'm going to propose today presuppose a functioning government. I have a plan to make sure our government functions once again. Looking forward to the conversation today. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Ryan Bedicut.
Hey everyone, it's so nice to be with you here today. My name is Ryan Vedekad, and I'm running for Congress to rebuild the American dream, the American dream that you guys and my generation has always thought we had, but is beginning to fall apart. I was born and raised in this district to a mom who worked for the U.S. Postal Service for more than 20 years, and a dad who took night classes at DePaul to become a software engineer. I went to Barrington High School for my high school. I taught 5th grade Sunday school at Holy Family Catholic Church, and if there's anything I know about Congress, it's teaching a class of 5th graders. After that, I went to the University of Illinois for undergrad, and I was there during COVID times. And going to school during COVID isn't fun. And so I made a choice. I decided to hunker down in my dorm room, and I graduated in 2 years from there. After that, I went to Austria as a Fulbright scholar, where I worked as an English teacher. And I learned and I lived in a country where progressive policies actually work. Things like universal health care and universal education, policies that I understand now that I'm ready to take back to Capitol Hill. After that, I went to graduate school at the University of Chicago, earned my master's in international law, and then I went to work at the Department of Justice in Washington. Our office handled some of the most complex and hardest things you can imagine, from prosecuting school shootings and international terrorist attacks to also the January 6th insurrectionists. Pam Bondi, after the new administration came in, she walked into the office, she shook my hand, and then fired my boss. So I didn't really agree with that. So I decided to resign from my position and run for Congress, because I just think we need a really good new generation of leaders, but not just younger voices, but better voices in Congress. I really look forward to the conversation with you guys, and again, thank you for being here. You guys are the reason I'm here, fighting every day, knocking on doors, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you. Now let's move on to questions. Remember, you each have 1 minute to answer. I will state question 1. What is the one thing that distinguishes you from the other candidates? This question will first go to Sanjit Dinag.
Thank you for that question. I'm in this race because I'm really very frustrated with the whiplash that happens between administration to administration. I'm sure you've all seen it. As a business owner, I know that long-term investment is needed for education, for healthcare, for our communities, for energy and construction. But if every time a new administration comes in, the old rules go away, what do we need to do to make sure we have some stability so we can actually invest long-term? That's what makes me different in this race. I'm focused on building bridges within our party as well as across political divides to focus on making sure that we have advanced opportunities to high-paying jobs, making sure that everybody can live and age with dignity, and make sure that we deliver pro-legal immigration reform, faster pathways to visas, green cards, and citizenship. Nobody should be waiting. We're a land of immigrants. We're all immigrants, whether you came 4 years ago or 400. Thank you.
Thank you. Junaid Ahmed.
I've spoken to thousands of people across the district, and one consistent feedback, consistent message that we get is the people of this district want a fighter in D.C. What does that entail? I am not a career politician. I have been shoulder to shoulder with the people of this district. We need someone in district. The unique thing I bring to the district here is someone who is not showing up just to ask for your votes. Someone who, as a citizen, has been around for the last couple of decades in the area, and then is at the forefront of shutting down the ICE detention center in Trump 1.0. I was there yesterday for this district. I am here today for the district, and I will be here taking your voice to the district. And I think that's critical, to not accept special interest dark money. It's critical to not accept corporate PAC money and be that voice of the people of the district in Congress. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Bean.
Well, I'm really proud of my real-world background as a working mom, as having held leadership positions and driven consensus in organizations both in the public, private, and nonprofit sector. I think the experience in Washington matters as well, the relationships, the institutional knowledge of how to get things done, but most importantly, my record of having delivered, of taking the anger that we are all understandably feeling right now about the chaos, the corruption, the trampling of our Constitution and our individual liberties, but taking anger and turning it into action with practical problem solving. That's the record I'm proud of. That's the record that I'll bring to Washington. And as the only one here with legislative experience, that's my unique differentiator. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Morrison.
You know, what distinguishes me in this race is the fact that I wear my heart on my sleeve. I genuinely care about not only meeting with our residents, but finding out what their struggles are and finding solutions and delivering for them. When I ran the first time, I knocked on 46,000 doors to meet as many residents of the 15th County Board District in that run. I am committed to not only doing what I've done as a commissioner, which is have an open door policy. I want to do that in Congress as well, hosting regular town halls, meeting with our residents, finding out what issues they're dealing with and delivering solutions. We need leaders who have a background of taking on Republicans and winning, but also taking on hard fights. Over the last 7 years, I've gotten great and big policies through the finish line. I've been able to deliver for our families, creating programs that save lives and help uplift our individuals and see upward mobility. And so what distinguishes me is the fact that my only one commitment is going to be the voters of the 8th District.
Thank you. Yasmin Bankole.
I believe there's a couple of things that distinguish me from my opponents. One, I am running on a proven track record of getting things done. I've passed ordinances that have helped my residents in the now, not a year from now. I've helped lower costs in the village that I represent. But I also have experience at the federal level. You know, many of us know that it's the staff that actually crafts the legislation, that gets it over the finish line, that works hard to ensure that it has enough sponsors. I spent 8 years doing this, and I'm ready to hit the ground running on day one. We don't have time to wait. I will also just say that one thing that distinguishes me is that I live in the district and that I'm from the district. There's actually several folks up here that don't live in the district, moved back just to run for this seat. I think that we deserve leaders that actually care about us, actually care about our interests, and that are deeply rooted here and will serve us well in Congress.
Thank you. Dan Tully.
I think I stand out as my experience meets the challenge. Specifically, the president right now is weaponizing the law or acting outside of the law with no accountability. And so to be someone, the only person on the stage with experience practicing law, I think I have a pretty good insight about the different tools that we can use within the law to push back and to hold accountability. And that, again, is the source of the Trump accountability plan that I'm hoping to discuss in these later questions. But also, the president is seeking to use the military not only against the American people through the Insurrection Act, but also against our closest allies, threatening against NATO as well. We've seen already the UK pull out of Five Eyes, their intelligence sharing program. We've seen Canada go to China. All those challenges are particularly pressing. Last thing I would say about China, though, President Xi Jinping has said he wants to use the PLA against Taiwan in 2027. Only person on the stage who speaks Chinese and has advanced law degree in Chinese law. I think I'm prepared to be able to take on that challenge.
Thank you. Thank you. Ryan Bedicott.
So the question is, what distinguishes me from the other candidates? So if you guys have read your Constitution, you actually have to be 25 years old to run for Congress, to be a representative in the House. So I'm actually 24 right now. So you might be thinking, oh, Ryan, maybe next year? But I actually turned 25 a week before the election. So eligibility-wise, I got it. So, but the reason I mention that is because I just really think we need to embody this idea of a new generation of folks. Everyone on this stage is going to be talking about, hey, we need to build a better future for the next generation. Well, I'm the next generation. I'm here fighting for what my generation and what my peers, what my colleagues have been feeling during this past couple, during this administration. And I just think it's really time for us to step up and to really show what we're made of and to make a change in American politics.
Thank you. I'll ask all our candidates to keep the speakers on the table. That way our good friends in AV will be happy with the sound quality.
Ms. Anisha, can I? You left me?
Hold on one sec. Did you have a rebuttal?
No, I did not complete.
Oh, yes, you have not answered. Neil Cutt, please.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I will not let that happen. I will fight for my right.
Thank you, Neil Cutt.
I have lived here more than 30 years. and there is no other country for me to go to. This is my home, and District 8 and the residents is my family. And that is why I want to go to Congress. That is why I want to represent you, all of you in the district, first of all, to ensure that the seniors and the women have respect and dignity. Their earned benefits, which is Social Security and Medicare, are not put on the chopping block. They need to be protected and respected. Are you right? Are you agreeing with that? Do you believe that that should be the most important thing for me? Second and last, I get to see dismantling Trump. Because if we do not dismantle Trump, we do not know what this country is going to become like. And I have a plan. You can go on my website to see how systematically we want to dismantle Trump. Equally, I've created many jobs in the district, and I want to ensure I bring more jobs and companies back. Thank you.
We will now go on to question 2, and I'll state the question. Do you support abolishing ICE, reforming it, or maintaining it as is? Please explain your reason. The first person to answer this question before I circle back around will be Junaid Ahmed.
Look, the federal government is using this as a political weapon, using fear as political weapon. People are afraid to go to work. People are afraid to go to school, to seek legal help, to seek medical help. What we're seeing in Minnesota, cold-blooded murder. This is crossing a line to the extent that immigration implementation should be about human rights, human dignity. It should be about implementing laws in a humane way. Unfortunately, this government is militarizing our streets. Unlike one of my opponents here, who has given $26 billion to ICE, voted to give $26 billion to ICE, I will support abolishing ICE and bring humanity back to immigration implementation. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Bean.
Hi, I think most of us have joined many of you at the numerous protests against ICE's overreach. It's out of control and it has to be stopped. Our cities are under occupation. We never thought we'd see this. My father was a World War II veteran and fought fascism. Against occupation, he would be rolling in his grave right now. So it must stop. We shouldn't be funding this expansion that's taken their budget from $8 billion to $85 billion in 1 year. Kristi Noem has to go. They have to get off our streets. And we need to impose a suspension of the immunity that's been available to them so every agent and every officer is held accountable to this unconstitutional and unlawful and very dangerous behavior. Our children shouldn't see the images that they're seeing right now on television. We used to be able to say when we saw those images, that can't happen in America. And sadly, we can't say that now.
Thank you. Kevin Morrison.
I support abolishing Trump's ICE. We've seen 60,000 ICE agents hired since the raids began. There are questions on what training they received, as well as whether or not any January 6ers were hired into the ICE workforce. What we've seen in our streets is absolutely unacceptable. I did not go to law school for 5.5 years, taking night classes to see our Constitution ripped to shreds. And as a county commissioner, I've actually been able to take action holding ICE accountable. I passed a resolution supporting due process and habeas corpus. We gave a constitutional lesson to the president and their cabinet. It's an embarrassment that we even had to take that step since those are guarantees in our Constitution. I also sponsored a resolution calling for the unmasking and identification of ICE agents, and we banned them from our properties. And then I was the lead sponsor calling for all local bodies of government to ban ICE from their properties as well.
Thank you. Yasmin Bankole.
Yes, all right. Hello? Okay. Yes, I do believe that we should abolish this current form of ICE, and there's a couple of reasons why. I've already started to have conversations with law enforcement and police chiefs who have said that ICE in its current form is eroding public trust in law enforcement. Many of you may remember that ICE came to Hanover Park and took one of our police officers. It made national news. And after that happened, I passed an ordinance that said that ICE could not operate on our police department lots, fire department lots, Metra, because I believe that that is what is needed in this moment. We are seeing the law being broken time and time again. You know, ICE is also funded to the tune of $75 billion for the next 6 years. We should not give ICE any more funding. I believe in law and order, not violence and chaos.
Thank you. Dan Tully.
I absolutely agree that we need to abolish ICE. Now, of course, just like any other country, we need federal immigration laws and we need law enforcement agencies to enforce those laws. But they cannot be a law enforcement agency that has blood on its hands of untrained, unscreened, and unvetted people that are committing abuses all across this country. So there's a number of steps in my Trump accountability plan that are relevant to fixing this problem. Number one, we need to pierce the qualified and sovereign immunity of ICE agents. This would allow state courts to take action against ICE agents, both on the criminal and the civil side. In addition, we need, day one, an ICE Accountability Commission in the U.S. House of Representatives. We could use the subpoena power of Congress to require that the Department of Homeland Security submit all the travel records, the expense reports, the vehicle logs of all the federal employees, the ICE agents who were involved in these abuses. With that information, we can figure out on an individual basis who is behind the masks and then pursue not only political but also criminal accountability against them. There's another tool, inherent contempt, that I'll talk about later.
Ryan Petticut.
About a month ago, I went to Elgin, where they held a community forum on ICE. If you weren't aware, on December 6th, ICE actually came to Elgin and they shot tear gas into the crowd. They bullied and essentially did a lot of illegal actions against our constituents here in the 8th District. And I was listening to folks over there, and they were describing that day, December 6th, on Maple Avenue, as one of the most traumatic days in their lives. And so, yes, I agree with all of my colleagues here that we need to abolish this administration's ICE. As former law enforcement, I am abhorrent at the idea that our law enforcement agents and officials across federal government are now being labeled as people who don't do the right thing. But this ICE, this administration is doing the wrong thing. And we love our immigrants here. As an immigrant myself, we just need to focus on the future and taking this away.
Thank you. Neil Cote.
I guess ICE is the reason, again, I want to bring this up, why I need to carry this passport. And I'm sure many of you are also doing the same. But ICE was formed for something pretty important reason, preventing drug trafficking, child abuse, child trafficking across the border. But today, what ICE has become is a lawless agency. It has become an unlawful agency. Masking people, kidnapping and killing is becoming a norm. In its current form, I believe ICE should be fully abolished. In its current form, I believe Secretary Kristi Noem should be impeached. And when I go to Washington, D.C., I will ensure that no funding is given to ICE and Secretary Noem should be impeached. Thank you.
Thank you. Sanjay Uttara.
There's no question that ICE's overreach is horrific. I would support every ounce of ICE accountability, making sure that we reform masks, warrants, a number of other things. But let's stop for a moment and recognize the ICE overreach of today is the result of failed leadership for over 20 years. Both parties have kicked the can down the road on immigration reform. I'm a social scientist. I spend my time thinking about how do we strengthen our communities and our country. We need leaders who will think ahead. Actually anticipating problems and fixing them is a key part of it. Pro-legal immigration reform is one of the key steps along with ICE accountability. I've written a Substack on my policy Substack. Please take a look at it. Chaos is a choice, but so is competence. And I think that's one of the other reasons that makes me different. Let's stop sending leaders who will just do the status quo, think ahead, disrupt the chaos, and think differently.
Thank you. We will now move to question 3. I believe everybody has answered the question, correct? Okay. Question 3. How would you approach modernizing the electricity grid to meet growing energy demands, including increased use by data centers while maintaining reliability and affordability? This question will first go to Melissa Bean.
Well, I think energy is a great concern, and there's been a lot of talk about the data centers and the additional consumption that it's taking up. But in doing the research on it, they're actually only asking for about 5% more of what they've been taking currently, and we're wasting 30% of the energy we produce. So in the past, we had passed, some of you may remember the Cash for Clunkers bill, which was to get old cars off the road and get more energy efficient cars. We need a Cash for Clunkers for appliances, to redo homes and insulation, and to address that 30% of inefficiency. That'll address, I think, the data center needs effectively. But the most important is we need the majority so we can refund the already congressionally approved funds for the IRA that passed under President Biden to really promote wind and solar, which have come down 10x in price. People used to think we couldn't do it that way, but renewables will work. Thank you. Kevin Morrison.
Well, first and foremost, we need these data centers. Our technology continues to evolve, and they do plays a crucial component in that evolution. Now, these data centers make tons of money and have few staff. I think that first and foremost, these data centers should be investing in improving the electrical grids in the communities that they are seeking to go into. But also something to be considered is the impacts that they're having on the surrounding housing or businesses in their communities. In the industrial hub over in Elk Grove Village, we've heard of property taxes exploding because we've got these data centers coming in. That needs to be addressed. So where these data centers are placed needs to be considered, but also the fact that they do contribute to climate change. We need to make sure that we are using greener energy options as we are seeking these changes for these data centers as well.
Thank you. Yasmin Bankole.
As previously mentioned, we saw the Inflation Reduction Act that passed during the Biden-Harris administration. I was proud to actually implement portions of that act throughout the Chicagoland area as it relates to making sure that tax credits made its way to different companies, renewable energy, clean buses, EV. This was the single largest investment in clean energy that we've ever seen in our lifetimes, and this administration has clawed back the essential funding that gave that act teeth. We must make sure that that funding is restored. And we should also stop passing spending bills that are then ignored by this current administration. When I think about data centers, I think about their need, but I also think about the environmental impact, right? Nobody ever speaks up for our environment. Let's make sure that there is proper legislation on the books that also
Thank you.
I will stop there.
Dan Tully.
There are really two timescales here when it comes to our electric grid. One, the short term, and the second, the long term. First, in the short term, we need to stop this administration's pause on all permitting on wind farms overseas, and even just off the coasts. Right now, this president sees wind as an enemy for some reason. The number two, in terms of short term, we need to make sure that any data center that's brought online is brought with either its own energy source or with the company that's building it deciding to cover the difference in price so it's not passed on as a negative or externality to the community. But more so in the long term, we need to see our electric grid as a vulnerability from a national security perspective. We need federal investment to make sure that our grid is secure, but also can accommodate not only putting out the energy, but also taking new energy in from residential sources like solar panels. Last thing I would say is the only way that we can power AI data centers sustainably is through investment in nuclear, whether that's a modular nuclear reactor or bringing on the nuclear sites. Thanks.
Ryan Bedekat.
So I fully support a Green New Deal. A Green New Deal is essentially supporting jobs and programs for wind and solar and also nuclear energy. I witnessed this firsthand when I was overseas in Europe. This nuclear energy, I think, is just a little bit understated because it's 100% renewable, and it's also just provides an avenue for the future, for the foreseeable future. But the reason that it's so hard to create new nuclear power plants is because they're very expensive to build and because there's so much bureaucracy and red tape. I'm advocating for stripping away some of that bureaucracy, stripping away some of that red tape, investing in nuclear energy, and looking towards the long term for the future infrastructure of our country.
Thank you. Neil Cott.
Affordability is very important in today's day. We have seen that in hardworking families, even 2 paychecks are not enough to put food on the table. Families have to make a choice between food and prescription and medical. That should not be the case in the richest country. So when I look at data centers consuming so much energy and power, and hardworking families have to compete with data center pricing, that is not fair. We need to make sure that when data centers are put in, we have to ensure that they have the latest technologies, water cooling, liquid cooling technology, so that they do not consume so much energy that, again, families have to compete with their pricing. I also want to ensure that we give preference to solar, wind, energy, water, so that affordability of electric and utilities bring back to normal common sense pricing. And that's what I will support. All the alternate forms of fossil fuels should not be dependent upon. So fossil fuel needs to go down.
Thank you.
And alternate energies come up.
Thank you. Sanjoy Tenang.
Thank you. We all know that the energy prices are going up. We feel it in our pocketbook, but we also know that we need to make sure that we have a sensible plan for clean energy. The Biden infrastructure plan went very well in developing a long-term, but it missed the boat on short-term. Short-term, we need to make sure we have all energy sources. We are investing in making sure that we keep our prices down so that people can afford their daily life. But one of the other things we also need to do is make sure that Congress reasserts its power of the purse. If funds have been allocated, those funds need to be continued, whether it's an investment in solar, in wind, in any of the other forms of energy to bring us down. Our biggest competitor, adversary, China, has become an advanced electro-state. It's way ahead of us in energy, and we are now regressing into a petro-state. We need to make sure we assert our leadership and think long-term about making sure affordable energies, short, medium, and long-term.
Thank you. Junaid Ahmed.
I think the question had a component of modernizing our grids. It happens that I understand technology. A couple of things. Obviously, we need to make our grids that are operating on renewable energy. What else do we invest in? We have to invest in long-term storage, because producing it is not good enough. And how do you transport it? Those are the basic things that need investment today that will allow us to get to our goal of saving electricity bills, to the goal of saving our planet. We need to make those investments, and as data centers, we need to realize that data centers are going to be critical for the growth of, for us, making that leadership status in the world. But how do we do it? The billionaires who are coming in with those data centers need to support the existence and the formation and bear the cost.
Thank you. Thank you. We will now go on to question 4. I will state the question. In periods when executive authority is perceived to be expanding, how should Congress and the courts respond to preserve constitutional guardrails? This question will first go to Kevin Morrison.
Well, thank you for this question. I mean, we have seen many points of overreach by this administration, and we've seen a completely kneecapped Congress. War powers belong in our Congress. And we've seen illegal actions and no action taken by Congress to hold this president accountable. That's unacceptable. It's one of the reasons why we need to win back a Democratic majority in this upcoming general election. But also, we need to be seeing laws that see the finish line, that call back on the overreach of this administration, so that we do not see that in future administrations to come. Our constitutional order is at a crossroads. We're seeing a slippery slope toward authoritarianism that needs to stop, and I want to bring that fight and leadership to ensure that our constitutional order remains for future generations.
Thank you. Yasmin Bankole.
Thank you. I think there's a few things that we can touch on when we think about guardrails. I think that we are seeing the only checks and balances that's working is the U.S. courts, and I believe that we need to allocate more funding to the U.S. courts to really beef that up. You know, many of the temporary restraining orders that we have seen have come from federal judges that are upholding the law. We need to make sure that they are fully funded. The guardrails, I think, also mean accountability, right? We have an administration that's breaking the law every single day. That accountability can come in the form of impeachment. I'm the only person up here that has worked on 2 impeachments, the 2019 impeachment that went through Oversight Committee and the 2021 impeachment after January 6th. We need to see a 3rd impeachment, not only of this president, but of every single cabinet member that breaks the law every single day. I think that we also need to look at funding. Why should we continue to fund things that are not working right now? Thank you.
Dan Tully.
I'm going to try to cover 3 different ways that this Congress can push back and contain executive power overreach. So number 1, tariffs. Tariffs are within the exclusive remit under the enumerated powers of Congress. Right now, and of course over multiple administrations, Congress has let tariffs go to the executive. However, they can reclaim it by requiring that the president go to Congress for not only congressional review, but also congressional consent on any new tariff program. Number 2, war powers. Of course, Congress has the exclusive power to declare war. How can it enforce that? It can put language in the NDAA that says anytime that there's expenditure on any type of operations, Department of Defense political appointees have to cite a specific operation or war declared by Congress. That creates new liability for political appointees down the chain. And I think that would force the president to come to Congress. The last thing I would say is election control. We need to raise the approval level of approving warrants from a magistrate level to a appellate level. That would prevent...
Thank you. Thank you. Ryan Petticut.
So there's really 2 things that I would really look at. First is the authorization for the use of military force. This is the AUMF. After 9/11, that this was passed. And so what this action essentially allows is it allows the president to go to war, to send troops for up to 90 days in a foreign country without the authorization of Congress. I think we should really look at revising the AUMF and preventing a president from unilaterally going to war. The second is presidential pardons. When I was at the DOJ, me and my colleagues, we prosecuted the January 6th insurrectionists. Following that, they were pardoned, and it was part of my job to input into our system each individual pardon. This is 1,300 individuals who committed felonies and misdemeanors who were let go without any consequences. I think we should really look at revising presidential pardons, especially in light of that previously to being elected, President Trump stated that he would not pardon these individuals. And so if a president says that he will not pardon someone, they should not be allowed to pardon someone.
Thank you. Neil Cutt.
The current president became this far was not on one day. It was a making and happening. It is not that the Republicans came and did their best. It is the Democrats who did not go to the polling booths to get back the House. This is a step-by-step process to dismantle Trump. If you do not dismantle Trump, it's going to continue this lawlessness, the king-like behavior, corruption, a crypto corruption, talk about going and other countries, sovereign countries, to take the leaders, hijack them overnight. That's not this country is what was made up of. This is the leader that is unhinged, and we need to bring it back step by step. We also need a new leadership in the Democratic Party that works, stands up and fights and also collaborates, so that when we need a vote in the Senate, we need to make sure that when we go for impeachment of this president, we have the power to do that. So I request and I urge all of you in the midterms, please vote in numbers, take back the House, because that's the first step to start getting this country back in normalcy and take the chaos out of Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Sanjoy Tanang.
Thank you. There's no question that the executive branch has been increasingly becoming more taking over more control. We need to make sure that Congress holds them accountable in 3 key areas. The first is an oversight, really making sure to reassert the roles in tariffs, military actions. As a military mom, I'm always very concerned about those unilateral military actions that have no day after plan. We don't need any more forever wars, and we need to be absolutely sure we know why we do the actions that we do. The second is an accountability. We need more independent governance. We need to hold hearings, and we need need to hold the cabinet as well as the president accountable. And then the third is when we have the ball as Democrats, we need to make sure that we're using good governance as well. Campaign finance reform, election reform, and term limits. I'm the only one up here talking about term limits. House, Senate, and the Supreme Court. No one should think that they're in office for life. We can talk about 10 years, 12 years, 18. I'm open to discussion.
Thank you.
But that should be the next.
Thank you. Junaid Ahmed.
Look, Congress should realize that they are the co-equal in the branch. What we're seeing today is what we learned in basic civics, judicial, executive, legislative. We're seeing legislative not doing their part. They need to use their power of the purse. Use appropriations. Hold the budget instead of giving a blank check. Basic things that the Congress needs to come back to. They need to have aggressive oversight. We're talking about robust hearings, subpoenas. These are not partisan attacks. These are constitutional duties that our Congress has towards their people. And finally, our judges need to implement their executive power by protecting the basic constitution rights instead of letting this president go gung-ho and become a dictator that he wants to be.
Thank you. Melissa Bean.
Certainly, this isn't the first president who stretched executive authority, but President Trump's level of abuse is unconstitutional, unlawful, and unprecedented. And we have the weakest speaker in the House who's let it happen. Earlier it was mentioned we need immigration reform. Congress had an immigration reform bill ready to go. President Trump wasn't even elected yet and called Johnson and said, don't bring the bill because it's not going to help me politically, and he stopped it. On energy, we talked about, there was already appropriations, as indicated by others here, ready to go to invest in renewables and put us, to make our grid smarter and will perform for us in the future. So we need a Democratic majority that believes in the power of government and will follow through accordingly. There's specific things we can do right now. So that we've actually, this president by executive order took us out of the Department of Health, very dangerous. Took us out of the climate accords, very dangerous.
Thank
and most
you.
recently, the START Treaty for nuclear proliferation.
Thank you.
It's gotta
We will
stop.
now move on. I believe we have a rebuttal. You have 30 seconds, Dan Tully.
I just wanted to finish the idea that I was trying to share. I think the greatest threat of the executive power overreach right now is in our elections. Per the Constitution, our elections are administered by state and local governments, and yet we saw this past week Trump sending the FBI to Georgia to pull election records from 6 years ago. I think it was a test run to see how the federal government could actually intervene in the elections the day of, or maybe the night after, to count the ballots. What we need to do is have Congress pass an amendment to the Federal Magistrates Act to say that any review of a warrant
Thank you.
has to be escalated.
We will now move on to question 5. Per the rules, we cannot have a rebuttal on the rebuttal.
It's not on his rebuttal.
Okay, go ahead. Yasmin Bankole, you have 30 seconds.
Right, on the question.
Yes, on the question.
Yeah. So we heard that one way to combat this issue is having a Democratic majority, and I just think that Democrats are also letting us down in this moment, and so that cannot be the only solution to having some normalcy, right? This seat is not just about electing a Democrat, it's about electing the right Democrat, someone who will actually stand up for us when it matters most, and who won't wilt like a flower when they're have difficult decisions in front of them.
Thank you. We will now move on to question 5. I will state the question. What role should Congress play in shaping U.S. policy towards Gaza, including aid, arms, and humanitarian assistance? This question will first go to Yasmin Bankole.
I think what we witnessed in the Israeli-Hamas conflict was horrific. I can't even imagine having loved ones taken for years on end, not knowing if they're alive and well. I think what we also saw with this action was a gross violation of human rights. We know that if we give, under the Leahy laws, if we give another country funding, that they need to fall, that funding cannot be implicit in human rights violations. So when I think about aid, when I think about following the law, those two things need to go hand in hand. We are a country of law and order. International law is there for a reason. It must be followed. I also think about the reverberating impact of the war, how we also felt out that anti-Semitism through the roof, anti-Muslim hate through the roof, anti-Islamophobia. We need to have things on the books that protect us here,
Thank you.
codifying religion.
Thank you.
Okay.
We will now go to Dan Tully.
I approach this issue from two different perspectives. One, I spent a year in the Middle East advising commanders in combat zones on the counter-ISIS fight. And number two, my most recent job was with the U.S. Department of Commerce, funded by USAID, doing foreign assistance work. What I think the U.S. role should be right now is to ensure the conditions going forward eliminate human suffering and also create the possibility of a two-state solution. I think that's the only way forward in which Israelis and Palestinians have their own countries in which they can make their own decisions about their own futures. Now, I have deep concerns about this president's current plan in which he's auctioning off positions on his peace commission for $1 billion each, or alternatively, he's inviting people like President Putin to come onto the board without paying anything. We need people that are rooted in the communities there, not Hamas, of course, but rooted in the communities to actually make decisions about the future, not to have this casino-ridden area that Trump envisions, but rather to actually have two sustainable states for peace in the future.
Ryan Bedikat.
So when I was at the Department of Justice, I was a counterterrorism analyst, and part of that job was also helping my colleagues prosecute the October 7th terrorist attacks. And so I've watched the videos, I've helped work on the cases, and what happened that day is one of the most horrible things that did. But everything following that day was also equally horrible and unjustified. Currently in Congress, there's a movement to support a Block the Bombs Act. So this is preventing further federal funding towards Israel in light of these allegations of human rights abuses. I vehemently support this motion, and I hope that if we can get this through, that we could not have these violations continue to occur.
Thank you. Neil Cutt.
Whatever happened in Israel and Gaza was a human tragedy. We lost many lives, and that should not be the precedent that we need to set. U.S. as a beacon of hope and courage for others and other countries. Israel needs to be protected. It should have its right to be protected, but also we need to ensure that Palestine is rebuilt and peace and progress is brought to those two nations, because for international security and peace, Israel is important. But also from a humanitarian point of view, we need to bring back peace, and that should be the role of U.S. going forward. We need to care for the people of Israel. We need to care for the citizens of Israel, but also we may have a bad leader there, and which is what is causing more and more troubles. So U.S., when it gives funding, should put some strings so that genocide does not happen. But I want to ensure that peace and progress continues, and that region needs to have a two-state solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Sanjay Tinang.
Thank you. I know that the events of the last 3 years have horrified a great number of people, just regardless of how and what lens you see it through. We need to address it holistically, and also keep in mind that there are almost 60 conflicts raging around the world. Only 2 make it into the media, the Israeli-Gaza conflict and the Ukrainian one. Both are worthy of our attention, but we need to holistically take a look at a values-based foreign policy. I support the Gaza peace plan. It isn't perfect. It is certainly very fragile, but it's far better than what has transpired over the last few years, and we need to support it. It is endorsed and accepted by all of the parties in the Middle East, the majority of the UN and the US. It is the best way forward to a two-state solution where both peoples can live side by side, peacefully, securely, and with prosperity.
Thank you. Junaid Ahmed.
First, let's accept a very simple fact here, that our tax dollars were used to commit a genocide. Your tax dollars and my tax dollars were used to commit a genocide here. Friends, the killing of innocent people is still continuing post-ceasefire. My dear friends, today, people, mothers are waking up out in the cold. Today, they are waking up to dead, frozen babies next to them. And we need to try to go understand what is the root cause of this problem. The root cause of the problem is the millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars that is being put into this political system by the dark AIPAC organization. Now that their name has been exposed, they are going into disguised as different organizations. You don't have to go too far. You have to look at right this district. In the last 48 hours, 400,000 of ad buy was done by organizations
Thank you.
that are going under disguise as another name.
We'll now move on to Melissa Bean.
Well, I think the tragedy of what's happened in the region is unspeakable. Mutual annihilation is not a strategy for peace. I think the whole world took a pause of relief to see a peace plan put in place that's been agreed to from both sides. The only way we moved from the easiest step, which was the exchange of prisoners for hostages, which was important for some reunification, that was the easier step. The next steps are much harder and will require regional coordination as well as global players like the U.S. to help rebuild Gaza so the Palestinians can have safety and security moving forward, as well as ensuring the safety and security that Israelis need. There's been suffering on both sides. This is going to be a very slow process. Both sides have lost loved ones that they'll never see again. The Jews suffered the most violent attack since the Holocaust, and the Palestinians have seen catastrophic
Kevin
destruction.
Morrison.
You know, the question was the role of Congress in shaping policy. Well, the role of Congress is to actually be a check on an unhinged president and administration. President Trump has created a committee that does not include any Palestinian voices. To actually once and for all see lasting peace in the region, we need real, true diplomacy between Israelis and Palestinians to bring a lasting peace. And that means pressure by our Congress to ensure that finally steps are taken that guarantee a two-state solution. It needs to happen. It's the only thing that will finally bring peace to the region. But also we need to see an international coalition coming together to ensure that we are rebuilding Gaza, that we are creating pathways that unite the West Bank and Gaza territories. But let's be clear. Just like President Trump has been wrong for this moment, Netanyahu's been wrong for the moment in Israel. And we need real leaders who are going to speak truth, but also be pushing forward peace.
Thank you. I see a rebuttal. Junaid Ahmed, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. Not Kevin, to your point specific, but to the overall question that we had here. I invite that my fellow candidates here say that they're going to be for America first, for humanity first, and not take any money from AIPAC donors, from people, organizations that are connected to this organization that has been putting in millions of dollars. I am taking that oath that I will not accept that money.
Thank you.
I request others to do the
We will
same.
now move on to question 6. I see a rebuttal.
Not to his.
Okay. Yasmin Bankole, this is your second rebuttal.
Just wanted to add to this conversation. I don't believe that October 7th started out as a genocide, but I do believe that it ended as a genocide. And we can't talk about democracy here and then not ignore the very severe injustices that happened around the world. And I do want to also comment on what my opponent stated. There is a foreign entity that has poured in this moment, is pouring in $400,000 a week into supporting the former Congresswoman. It is a foreign entity. Every single week they're pouring money into this race, trying to buy this race. And so it's really important to know who is supporting us in this race.
We will now move. I see another rebuttal. Kevin Morrison, this is your first rebuttal.
You know, just saying.
Are rebuttals actually rebuttals or just an extension of our time to speak? I think the rules are shifting here.
The rebuttal can be used, it's Kevin Morrison's turn to talk. You have 30 seconds.
You know, I just want to say that I believe the 8th Congressional District voters, their votes cannot be bought. I think that they can make decisions on what type of leadership and future that they want to see. But, you know, a point that has not been brought up is the fact, you know, there are few of us on this stage who actually grew up in the 8th Congressional District or live in it currently. Former Congresswoman Bean actually lives in Mike Quigley's district, who I've earned his endorsement in this race, and I'm really proud of that. But we need people who actually want to fight for the community members and actually...
Thank you. We will now move on to question 6, seeing no other rebuttals. Question 6, I will state the question. What role should the federal government play in supporting university-based and scientific research, particularly in maintaining research capacity?
Could you repeat it? I'm sorry.
Sure. What role should the federal government play in supporting university-based and scientific research, particularly in maintaining research capacity? The question will first go to Dan Tully.
The federal government should take an active role in promoting research. So we've seen under this president this questioning of the value of research, whether it be through universities or be through government agencies. The number one issue in this realm is political independence. We see this not only at the DOJ, at the Federal Reserve, but also at the places like CDC and at the NIH. When you approach the scientific process with a conclusion already in mind, that is born off through politics. That is contrary to the fundamental nature of science. What we need is to break out the CDC and the NIH and other research-based institutions out from under politically appointed organizations and have political independence, also political independence of their funding. But also when it comes to universities, we should make it illegal for this president to issue executive orders that target universities who are pursuing research that he doesn't like or have policies of admission that he doesn't like. Congress can in place those restrictions.
Thank you. Ryan Pettigat.
So if you guys walk through a grocery store, you might notice that the majority of a grocery store is just aisles and aisles and aisles of processed foods. And if you look at the labels for all these foods, there's only a few of them that have the exact percent daily value that you should have. So sugar in specific does not have a percent daily value. You're only supposed to have around 30 grams of sugar every day, and it's supposed to show that percent daily value of it. And so the reason I mention that is that there's a lot of lobbying and specific interests in our health and food and medicine industry. And so we have to combat all of these interests in order to safeguard the health and security of the American people.
Thank you. Neil Cutt.
I think universities play a very important role, and immigration, along with universities, we bring the best talent into this country. From having a man land on moon, the first country, having created internet, having created Facebook, Amazon. This is the country that is the forefront of leading, and they all come from universities. But today what we are seeing, companies which were the founder of cell phone was in Schaumburg. You remember the name? Motorola. That is what created from Schaumburg, and this was the home to the first cell phone company, and we have lost it. It is becoming an entertainment center. And the current president is doing more worse. He is dismantling Department of Education. I think we need to double down on education. We need to make sure the 8th district brings back those jobs that we have lost. I have created many jobs in this district. I have created global companies. And I understand how to bring those jobs back and make sure that the education is at the forefront. And that's how we're going to bring back America to the glory days and the District 8 to be a model district. Thank you.
Sanjay Tanang.
Thank you. If a country's budget reflects its values, what does it say about us and this current administration that they are spending more money on ICE enforcement than on cancer research? We have our values backwards. We need to fix that. I would support investing in our education and our research. We certainly need to go back to the levels prior to this administration, but even more, we need to have a longer term. I am an educator. I have a lifelong learning business, and I also write textbooks. This is something I know quite well. I also am very proud that our company was recognized by Fast Company as the most innovative. It's an innovation mindset. That's what America is known for at our universities. We need to make sure that we are attracting the best and the brightest from around the world. That's why we need a better immigration policy that is fair, legal, transparent, so we continue to have that unique asset of the best hardworking folks from around the world at our universities, making sure that America is the leader.
Thank you. Junaid Ahmed?
Federally funded research is for the public good. That top things that comes to mind, right? You look at vaccines are coming from federally funded research. Internet came from a federally funded research. You are talking about responding to any pandemics. That's going to come from public funded research. Clean energy technologies. So in order for us to maintain the leadership status that we have in the world today, we need and we must continue to make heavy investment in our research, in our science, and it starts with fighting back with the slashes, the cuts that Trump is having today in his government. Now the Congress's job is to fight back, force him to reverse those cuts, and go back to the investment that we're making that will allow us to stay the national leaders.
We'll now go to Melissa Bean.
I would agree with much of what we've heard today. Sanjot correctly talked about the brain drain that's happening. We're losing some of the best scientific minds to other parts of the world who've left because there's no longer funding for their work, the research, for the vaccines and the cures that they were developing to make us safer. And health in general is our most important asset. And in addition to the president pulling out of the World Health Organization has really set us back. We need statutes in Congress to make sure that we rejoin the climate accords, we rejoin the World Health Organization. We don't need the president. The agreement is with the United States. The president is not the United States. Members of Congress represent the United States. Oh, and am I out? Or did I still have a little more time?
10 seconds.
Okay. And also, the $1 trillion that's been taken from Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, to be put into ICE funding has to stop.
Thank you.
Oh, well,
We'll go to Kevin Morrison.
Okay.
You know, under the Constitution, the president's role is to execute the laws, not destroy them. We have seen appropriated dollars by Congress be cut in the realm of research and scientific funding. The reason why the United States has been such a leader is because of the money that we have invested to research and science. So that needs to be reversed. For one, we need to increase the money going into our schools and investing in science and research for tackling the problems to come. We are seeing new illnesses develop. We're seeing also major vacancies in both the scientific and healthcare fields in the United States. In Illinois alone, by 2030, we're predicted to have 6,500 physician vacancies. So that means even if you have healthcare, you might not be able to get a doctor. And so we also need to see Congress take action to make higher education affordable and accessible to all, especially in areas where vacancies are predicted.
Thank you. Yasmin Bankole.
Kevin mentioned before that there's a couple millionaires that are running up here. I am not one of the millionaires, but what I lack in millions of dollars, I make up for in experience. 8 years of experience working for Congress, which means that I know that Congress has the power of the purse. We can talk about funding university-based research, but if it's clawed back, as it has already been done with this administration, then it's not going to go anywhere. And so I'm proposing that we withhold funding for those that continue to break the law. We withhold the funding of the agencies and those within those agencies that are carrying out these unlawful actions. We withhold their six-figure salaries, we withhold their FERS, we withhold their thrift savings. Enough is enough. We cannot spend any more time watching our country be destroyed by people who do not care about the law. And so I fully, okay,
Thank you.
well,
We'll
man, I
move
was
on
a
to
roll.
question 7.
Ms. Jojo, can I get one?
Oh, I see a rebuttal.
All right, just one rebuttal. Forums such as this allows everybody to see what leaders we have on the table. One of my opponents has worked for Wall Street. She's a congresswoman from J.P. Chase Morgan. She has represented profits over people. I want communities to understand that, who they are choosing. For me, it's more important that the 8 districts gets a leader that cares for people, not the profits, not the MAGA donors, or not APAC. I want to ensure that our leadership gives care, love
Thank
to this
you.
district, which is more
We will now
important.
move on to question 7. This will be our last question. I will state the question. What role should the federal government play in addressing equal access to employment opportunities for people of all backgrounds? This question will first go to Ryan Vedikat.
Could you repeat the question one more time?
Sure. What role should the federal government play in addressing equal access to employment opportunities for people of all backgrounds?
Yeah, so this really hits home for me because as a younger person, especially with a lot of friends that are entering the job market and having a really tough time finding jobs, even with college degrees, I really support avenues to support institutions like this. I've taken classes here at Harper. I work out every morning in the gym at Harper when I have time. And if you expand access to community colleges and trade schools and provide tax incentives to those with blue-collar work, for example, like plumbing and electricians and HVAC, a lot of people want to enter these fields, but it's even costly to obtain these certifications. In high school, I worked as a mechanic at the Route 66 on Algonquin Road. You actually passed it on your way here. And there's ASC certification. This is the Automotive Service Executive Institute. And these certifications are expensive. It takes a lot of money to take these exams and study for these exams. So I just support providing incentives
Thank you.
for the government to
We'll
provide
now move on to
these
Neil
services.
Hood. Thank you.
I think we had a good system working with DEI inclusion in all aspects of government and universities and education, jobs included. But with this current president, when he came over, he dismantled DEI. So which means that people that were underserved, people from underserved economies did not get a right, and they are now being dismantled. And I do not believe that's the path we need to set for. I believe that those DEI inclusions needs to be brought back, and that is only going to happen when we take back the House, we dismantle the current president, and it needs to be put back in place. Those were all in place. It is just getting dismantled, and we need to bring those back. And you need a new leadership to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Sanjog Danang.
Thank you. I take a look at these kinds of issues and problems with 3 different hats that I wear, or probably 4: social scientist, educator, small business owner, and of course, mom. Whenever you're looking to try and address a problem in society, you look at structural, cultural, and legal. We definitely need to make sure that everybody has access to equal employment. That's a legal solution. But let's look at the structural issues. We need to go much younger and make sure that people have the education and the tools to access those employment. I support pre-K and early childhood funding for everybody, strengthening our public schools, making sure we have standardized curriculums throughout the country. We find, for example, that in many employment areas, people don't have a quality high school education. So let's make sure that we give our young people the tools and the knowledge they need to compete effectively for those equal opportunities.
Thank you. Junaid Ahmed.
The federal government will set and enforce anti-discrimination laws. Establishing basic guidelines, basic rules that employers cannot discriminate, right? Laws like civil rights, the ADA, the ADEA, which make it illegal to deny jobs or promotion based on any specific protection categories that employers may be going against. So just as important is the making of the laws, the enforcement is critical through proper training, proper education, and the implementation that rolls down from the federal to the states, to the counties, to the cities. I think we need to come to a point where the proper training and education is given, so people who are coming from different parts of the zip codes, they're not discriminated, or they don't even have the opportunities even to get to that point.
Thank you. Melissa Bean.
Yes, it's already been said, but I think it's worth repeating. Enforcement can't be talked about enough. We already have anti-discriminatory laws in the books, but they are not being enforced, and they need to be. As someone who's built very talented, diverse teams, I've seen the benefit and the power of what can be accomplished. It's greatly hypocritical that this president is anti-DEI initiatives when he's built a cabinet of some of the most grossly incompetent individuals who aren't remotely qualified to do their jobs. Their only qualification is to pass a loyalty oath, which is really unacceptable.
Thank you. Kevin Morrison?
You know, as a county commissioner, I've already been able to lead in this area. As I sponsored legislation that got rid of unnecessary education requirements for the hiring of county staff. I also led the charge creating Cook County's Equity Department, which has improved trainings for all 24,000 county staff so that we can better deal with our incredibly diverse communities that we have throughout Cook County. We need to see leadership like that in Congress that, one, invests in our people. And how do we do that? You know, I'm endorsed by the Illinois Federation of Teachers, and the reason is because I want to see a vast increase of federal funding for public education so that once and for all in the United States we can guarantee high quality public education for all of our residents. It's one of the biggest opportunity losses we have as a nation, and that needs to change, and we need to make higher education accessible for all, and we cannot see this administration or the Supreme Court putting pressure on our colleges on
Thank
who they are
you.
letting into their campuses.
Thank you. Yasmin Bankole.
Okay. When I think about employment, I think about fully funding our Department of Education. It must be said that our teachers right now and our educators are underfunded, under-respected, and underpaid. I also think about, when I think about employment, I think about raising the minimum wage. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 right now. That is the cost of a latte. It needs to be raised. I also think about protecting the things that we have already earned, Social Security. I'm so proud that I was able to work on the Social Security Fairness Act that passed at the end of 2024. It raised benefits for teachers and firefighters and policemen and letter carriers. But I also, when I think about equal access, I think about equality, and I think about combating hate and discrimination in every form. And we know that a person up here, our former Congresswoman, has openly stated that she is against same-sex marriage. How can we talk about equal access and equality when you don't even believe that those from our LGBTQ plus community deserve the same rights as you?
We'll now move on to Dan Tully.
To protect civil rights and equal access to employment, the number one tool that we have is the Department of Justice. And yet under this president, he has pursued politicalization of the Department of Justice such that if he says to prosecute a political opponent, like James Comey, Pam Bondi will say, of course, we'll do. If he says, look the other way when it comes to prosecuting actual corruption, like Tom Homan receiving $50,000 in bribe in a fast food bag, Pam Bondi will look the other way. What we need to do, if we care about civil rights and enforcement of equal opportunity, we need to make sure that we break out the Attorney General from underneath the political influence of the president. Now, that's part of my Trump accountability plan. How do we do it? Well, we make the AG position elected rather than appointed. Elected specifically in the midterm years, such that every 2 years after a president is elected, we would elect an AG. How does that work? Well, we already have models in 43 of the states, including this one, where there are independently elected AGs from the governors. We would have a check on executive power from within the executive branch.
Thank you. I see a rebuttal from Kevin Morrison. Kevin Morrison, you have 30 seconds.
Well, I don't necessarily think electing an AG is quite necessary. I think first and foremost, we need to be strengthening our court system. We need to make sure that we are putting forward laws that protect all our United States residents. And there are so many laws that have been broken by this president. And this moment actually is calling for fighters. It's calling for people who have the knowledge. I may have not practiced law, but I did get a law degree, passed the bar the first time, and I'm ready to be that fighter for you in Congress.
Thank you. Dan Tully, did you have, a rebuttal cannot be made on a rebuttal. So we'll move on. Okay, thank you for abiding by the rules. Time now requires that we move to closing statements. That went by fast, right?
Yeah.
Candidates, you will each have 1 minute, and we will begin where we started with candidate Neil Cote. You have 1 minute.
Forums such as this gives us a light to see who do you want to be represented. As they say, if you do not pick up a right leader, a wrong leader will pick you up. So please look around. Please look around. Who's going to represent you? Who's going to care for the 8th district? For me, this is my home. For me, this is where my family is, and you are all my family. And I want to make sure when I go to Washington, D.C., I fight for you. I fight for your Medicare, Social Security, which are your earned benefits. These are not given benefits. These are your earned benefits. They do not need to be on the chopping block. I also want to make sure we bring back good companies back into the district. We want to bring high-paying jobs back into the districts. And centers like Harper College are a good training ground for bringing those jobs back. Last but not the least, we need to dismantle Trump. And what I ask you, on March 2nd at Trickster Gallery or in Schaumburg Library, we are going to gather and vote early voting. I ask all of you to join me, and let's tell that this is our country. We want to take it back.
We will now move on to Sanjay Danan.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for staying and listening. This administration has been very effective in doing one thing, breaking everything. We know that. They are destroying everything. They are destroying values, norms, and structures. The next Congress, hopefully a majority of the Democrats, and certainly in 28, is going to be responsible for building. And I want you to be thinking about what is it that we should be building towards. My campaign is about building what's next. I'm the only one in this race who is a mom, military mom, small business owner, and I took care of aging and disabled parents. I get what that's like, but I've also got federal policy experience. And even just last year, in an administration where it is not the Dems, we were effective in getting tax policy that was beneficial for health care, for independent contractors through the boards that I sit on. I'm the only one in this race. It's an innovation mindset. It will be interesting for you to note that 40% of Congress are lawyers.
We will now move on to
voices.
Junaid Ahmed. Thank you.
You know, in talking to hundreds of people in the district, one consistent feedback is you want a fighter in DC. And great candidates on this table here. But who took the stance when I believed in something that was not being done right in 2022? I stood up against the establishment. This fight is not just against MAGA Republicans. This fight is against an entire political system that has failed us. And I have stood up for what I believed was right. And due to that, the people who are fighting in Congress today, Congressman Rokana, Congresswoman Delia Ramirez, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, our own state central committee woman, Christina Castro, has endorsed me. I will be the voice of the people. As opposed to the title earned by my friend here, the Wall Street favorite, I will try everything that I can do to be the people's favorite and bring that voice to Congress.
Thank you. We will now move on to Melissa Bean.
It was an honor and privilege to represent this district for 6 years in the past, and I'm honored to be running again to serve you again. I'll put my record against anyone up here. I did support raising the minimum wage. It hasn't been raised since. I did support marriage equality, and we need to continue to support and protect it. Also supported ENDA, the Employee Non-Discrimination Act. I'm proud to put my record up against anybody, but I've never considered myself a politician, but a policy maker and a problem solver. I will hit the ground running. This is a critical time in our nation's history. This is not the time for on-the-job training. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Morrison.
You know, being truthful and honest is key to being a leader, and that's what this district deserves. You know, a lot of statements have been said on the stage. A lot of those you could look up and find the true record. The former Congresswoman said when she was in office that marriage should remain between a man and a woman. You could Google that. I'm the first openly LGBT county commissioner. I grew up in Elk Grove Village in the heart of this district. I have demonstrated that not only could I take on Republicans and win, but I could govern effectively and get big policies passed that help our residents do better. That's my commitment to you. I'm not someone who could be bought and sold. I'm running a people-powered campaign. It's grassroots, and I hope to earn your volunteer time, your support. I hope you'll go to my website, kevinmorrisonforcongress.com, to learn how you can get more involved. But in this moment, we need fighters with a track record, not people who disappeared for 15 years or who live outside the district. That's my commitment to you. Thank you for all being here today.
Thank you. Yasmin Bankole.
Again, I'm running to be a part of the next generation of leaders that have the experience to get things done, but I'm also running to stop this administration and to reprioritize the middle class. We are the majority, the middle class is the majority, and I think that politicians on both sides of the aisle have forgotten that. We need leaders that have the fight in them, but we also need those that have the expertise to lead in this moment. You know, when I think about the people who've endorsed me, they are firefighters, the Hoffman Estates firefighters locals, the Elk Grove Village firefighter locals, the letter carriers, electricians, IBEW Local 701. These are everyday people. This is who I have dedicated my race to. You know, this is the time for fresh leadership. This is the time for those that will stand up to this administration and protect the things that we have all worked very hard for. I have been rooted in this community, and I know I will make you proud.
We will now move on to Dan Tully.
There's a theme that ties together everything that we've talked about today, and that is the law. The president is pursuing his authoritarian agenda either by weaponizing the law or acting outside of the law with accountability. And I think I stand out to you today as the only person with experience practicing law. You hear a lot of similar diagnosis of the problems, but I think what I hope to stand out with is the specificity with which I propose the solutions. And that's the other thing. I know I talk fast. That's why I would ask that you consider coming to one of my Tully town halls, where I promise to talk a little bit slower, but also we can go deeper into policy. And in addition to that, on my social media, I have over 80 videos of myself explaining different policy solutions, highlighting not only the illegal things that Trump is doing, but also what we can do in Congress to stand up to him. And again, all that is encapsulated, the major themes in the Trump accountability plan that I have on the website, but I'd be grateful for any time that you'd be willing to invest in me helping to get that message out. I think we can take back power through the Congress from this executive. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Ryan Bedikat.
When you think about this race, I want you to think about two things. I want you to think about how this person would run their office and also the symbol of who we send to Washington. I'm on this stage with business leaders, and they're going to run their office like a business. I'm also on this stage with former politicians and politicians. They're going to run their office like a politician always will, or always has. And then you have me, this 24-year-old guy. Sure, my office would be a little bit more chaotic, a little bit more messy, but I think that's exactly what we need on Capitol Hill. I think we need, it'll be filled with young, bold leadership and young people running around trying to make your lives better. Like, yes, I'm 24 years old. Yes, I'm the youngest person running for Congress across the country right now. But I'm also the 24-year-old who was born and raised in this district, the 24-year-old who graduated college in 2 years in the middle of a pandemic, the 24-year-old who went overseas to Austria, who earned a graduate degree from the University of Chicago, and who worked to stop terrorist attacks at the Department of Justice. I'm running for you guys because I want to see a change in politics because it's not working the way it has been.
At this point, there are no rebuttals, so we will move on. Thank you so much, candidates, for a constructive conversation. You did a great job staying on time, so please give yourselves a pat on the back. I have been truly honored to engage with each one of you today and appreciate your civic engagement. And I want to once again give a huge thank you to the audience members, all of you who have come today. Thank you so much. I will now turn the mic back over to Janet. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. As we have been saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much to our candidates for their participation today. This is how democracy happens, and we really appreciate you joining us today. And then on behalf of the League of Women Voters and our co-sponsors, the Illinois Muslim Action Network and Harper College, thank you all for coming. We would like to also extend our sincerest thank you to the Harper College staff here for having this wonderful room to have this discussion in, the staff of our candidates, and the staff of our sponsors. And now, one last message today. There are several ways to cast your ballot. We've made it really easy. You can use Vote 411 to register, find out where you can vote early, and find your regular polling place and who is on your ballot. If you haven't already, please take a look at vote411.org. There's also cards outside in the lobby as well if you need help accessing that information. Please participate in our democracy by casting your ballot. Your vote is your voice. Thank you.